Welcome back to Gradient Daily. Today, we are jumping into a really exciting paper from the team at Tencent Hunyuan. It's called HunyuanWorld Mirror. And folks, this is a major step towards that sci-fi dream of building entire, complex 3D worlds from just a handful of pictures. So, let's get right into it.
I mean, just look at this. Right out of the gate, you can see the incredible range of what this thing can do. We're talking realistic rooms, huge cityscapes, fantasy worlds, all of it generated from a few images. This isn't about scanning a coffee cup on your desk. This is about reconstructing the entire scene, the whole shebang. And that's the core promise here. One single, incredibly powerful model to build it all.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about why this is such a hard problem to begin with. Then, we'll properly introduce HunyuanWorld Mirror and uncover the 2 secret ingredients that make it tick. After that, we'll look at the results, the proof in the pudding. And finally, we'll wrap up with a look at its strengths, weaknesses, and what's next on the horizon.
All right, let's set the stage. For decades, researchers have been chasing this holy grail, turning flat 2D images into rich 3D scenes. And, we've made some amazing progress. But it's still one of those brutally difficult problems, especially if you want the final result to be fast, accurate, and work on more than just one type of scene.
Before this paper, the field was kind of stuck behind 2 major roadblocks. First, on the input side, most models were basically flying blind. You'd give them some pictures, and that's it. They totally ignore super useful clues, like where the camera was, or if you had a rough depth scan. This leads to all kinds of silly mistakes. And then on the output side, you had a whole bunch of one-trick ponies. You'd have one model that was a genius at guessing depth, and another one that could figure out camera positions. But they were specialists, they didn't talk to each other, and you couldn't get the full picture from just one of them.
So, this all leads to the big million-dollar question that this paper asks. Is it even possible to build a single, universal model like a Swiss Army knife for 3D reconstruction that can gobble up all the available data you throw at it and, in one single shot, perform all the key 3D tasks at once?
And you probably guessed it. The answer is a big yes. Enter HunyuanWorld Mirror. The team calls it an all-in-one feed-forward model. All-in-one is pretty obvious. It handles all the inputs and all the outputs. But that feed-forward part, that's key. It means it's fast. It creates the entire 3D scene in one single pass. No waiting around, no going back and forth. Just boom, here's your world. For real-world use, that's a total game changer.
This diagram here really captures the entire philosophy. Think of it like a super advanced factory. On the left, you've got all your raw materials coming in. It could be just images, or images plus depth, or images plus camera info. It doesn't care. It'll take whatever you've got. Then it all goes through the machine in one go, and out the other side comes the finished product, a complete 3D blueprint of the scene. And it's not just one thing. It's the whole suite. Points, cameras, depth, normals, everything you need. So let's pop the hood and look at the first secret ingredient. How in the world does it handle all these different kinds of information so gracefully? The paper calls this multi-modal priors, and trust me, this is the model's absolute superpower. So what the heck is a prior? It's just a fancy academic word for an extra hint. Here's an analogy. Imagine you're a map maker. A satellite photo is a great start. But what if you also had the exact GPS coordinates of the satellite, and you knew the specs of its camera lens, and you had a survey showing the elevation of the terrain? You'd make a ridiculously better map, right? That's what these priors are. They're extra clues that take away the guesswork.
Okay, now this is where the magic happens, right here in this multimodal prompting box. Here's the challenge. An image, a camera position, and a depth map are all completely different types of data. You can't just toss them into a blender and hope for the best. The model needs a universal translator, a way to convert everything into a common language it understands. And for a big transformer model like this, that language is always tokens.
And the way it translates this information is so clever. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. For the small, compact bits of info, like a camera pose, it basically distills them down into one single powerful concept token. But for dense data, like a depth map where you have a value for every pixel, it does something brilliant. It turns the depth map into a grid of tokens that matches the image grid, and then it just adds them together. It's like overlaying a transparent topographic map right on top of the satellite photo from the very beginning, fusing geometry and appearance right away.
But wait, it gets even smarter. You might be wondering, well, what if I don't have a depth map for my images? This is where they pull off a genius training trick. During training, For every example, they just randomly decide whether to show the model the priors or not. Sometimes it gets depth, sometimes camera pose, sometimes both, sometimes nothing. It's like training a detective to solve a case, but you keep randomly hiding pieces of evidence. It forces the detective, the model, to become incredibly resourceful and learn to make the most of whatever clues it has.
Okay, so that's secret number 1, the incredibly flexible input system. Now for secret number 2, the output. Remember, this model isn't a one-trick pony. It's the whole darn circus, all performing at once. And I mean, just look at this list. It's absolutely wild. From that single input in one shot, it spits out all of this. A dense point map, the exact camera parameters, depth maps, surface normals for lighting, and, the big one, 3D Gaussians. That's the magic dust that lets you generate new views and basically fly around inside the scene you just created. All right, quick math alert. Don't panic, this equation is way simpler than it looks. How do you teach one model to be good at 5 different things? Well, you grade it on all 5 things at the same time. Think of it like a report card. Each L is the model's score on a different subject, how well it did on points, on depth, and so on. The little lambda symbols are just the weights, how much each subject counts toward the final GPA. It's all just a big balancing act that encourages the model to become a straight-A student across the board. Okay, enough with the theory. The ideas are elegant, the architecture is slick, but the big question is always the same. Does it actually work? Let's get to the good part, the payoff, and see how this thing performs out in the wild.
These charts tell such a cool story. See that brown line at the bottom of each graph? That's the model working with just images, no hints. Now watch what happens when you give it just one little prior, like depth or camera pose. Everything jumps up. But here's the really fascinating part. Giving it a hint about camera poses doesn't just make the camera predictions better, it makes everything better. Depth gets better, points get better. It's proof that a rising tide really does lift all boats, and the model is building a genuinely deeper, more holistic understanding of the scene.
And if those graphs felt a little abstract, this makes it crystal clear. On the left, that's what you get with just images. It's okay, but it's got that floaty, distorted, slightly weird vibe. Now, look what happens when you feed it those priors. Bam! Everything just snaps into place. The geometry gets clean, the scale feels right. It's the difference between a blurry sketch and a sharp architectural blueprint. It's night and day.
Let's talk hard numbers for a second, because these are pretty staggering. In this chart, lower is better. We're measuring error. Now, even in its base form, with no hints, World Mirror is already at the top of the class, beating other state-of-the-art models. But then, look at that last row. When you give it all the clues, the error rate doesn't just drop, it gets absolutely obliterated. On those first 2 datasets, the error is cut by more than half. That is not a small step, that is a giant leap for 3D reconstruction.
And again, the numbers are one thing, but your eyes don't lie. Just compare the middle column, which is a really strong competitor, to the World Mirror results on the right. You can just see it. The point clouds are denser, they're more complete, and they just make more geometric sense. It's capturing the fine details and the structure of the rooms with so much more fidelity.
How about creating brand new images from different angles? The metric here is called PSNR, and all you need to know is that higher is better. Well, World Mirror doesn't just beat the old champ any splat. It kind of leaves it in the dust. A jump of 3 to 4 PSNR points is a massive, massive deal in image quality. It's a very noticeable leap in how clear and realistic everything looks.
And then there's this, which is just plain cool. To really test how well the model generalizes, the researchers fed it Van Gogh's The Starry Night. And, would you look at that? It actually turned the painting into a coherent 3D world. This is so important because it proves the model hasn't just memorized what real-world things look like, it's actually learned the fundamental rules of geometry and perspective.
Okay, so we've seen the incredible results, but no model is perfect. So let's take a step back, put on our critical hats, and take a balanced look. What are the real pros and cons here, and where do we go from here? The strengths are pretty obvious. You've got this insane versatility packed into one model. It's the new state-of-the-art champion across the board. It's robust, it's flexible, and it's fast. But on the flip side, the paper is very upfront about its weaknesses. It's not great with things that move, like cars and people. It's also limited in the resolution and number of images it can handle at once. And yeah, it's pretty hungry for compute. You're not going to be running this on your laptop anytime soon.
So, what's next? Well, those limitations basically give us a roadmap for future research, don't they? The next big challenges will be making the architecture more efficient, letting it handle higher resolution video, and the really big one, teaching it how to understand a world that's constantly in motion. Imagine training this on massive data sets from self-driving cars. That's where things get really interesting.
All right, let's boil this whole deep dive down. If you only remember 3 things, make it these. Number 1, hints are everything. Intelligently using extra data like camera pose isn't just a small tweak, it's a massive upgrade. Number 2, the Swiss Army knife approach works. A single, universal model can actually be better than a dozen specialized ones. And number 3, fast, high-quality 3D reconstruction is no longer science fiction. It's here, and it's getting better at a terrifying pace.
And that's our look at HunyuanWorld Mirror. What an absolutely incredible piece of work. If you enjoyed geeking out over this paper with us, please make sure you subscribe to Gradient Daily. We drop a new explainer just like this one every single day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.